This video is sponsored by Art of War and Deep Cut Studios. Check out the description below for a wide range of excellent hobby resources such as battle mats, pre-painted terrain, and premium token sets.
Hi guys and welcome back to TNG Productions. My name is Tom and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about Cohors Cthulhu Tactics, an adventure war game by Modiphius Entertainment that pits the forces of the Roman legionnaires and Germanic tribes against the hordes of Cthulhu and its starspawn. Now in this video I'm going to be talking you through the main mechanics of how to play over a couple of turns. This is based on the prologue adventure that is released alongside the Kickstarter. The main game may feature some advancements on these rules, but this should be enough to get you started and learn to play. So without further ado, let's show you what we're doing. And here we have the forces that we'll be using for today's game. We've got the heroic Roman legionnaires, and we have the evil cult of Mormo, which are led by the Chosen, that fleshy construct. Now, tactics can be played at a variety of sizes and scales, depending on the miniatures you have on hand, the stage of the adventure and acts that you're participating in, and the board size that you want to play on. So we're using the small skirmish scale at the moment, but it absolutely can be scaled up to a full rank and flank war game where you go against Starspawn of Cthulhu and all manner of other eldritch horrors. Now it's worth noting at this stage as well that the Germanic tribes are playable and can be added either in alliance or their own separate group to your adventuring warband. You can even pick your heroes from them. But at the moment, pre-Kickstarter fulfillment, this is what's available to us. Now, if you haven't seen these miniatures before, I'll bring them up to camera for you to see. They are beautiful resin sculpts that were really easy to paint up, a joy to paint. You can see Marius here. And they've kind of got this kind of slight cartoonish scale and size, which means that they're things like their eyebrows and their faces are sculpted on and incredibly expressive. You can see this guy's super cheekbones here, which means that they're actually really, really easy to shade and layer up. So if you're not a particularly confident painter, just like me, you can probably just get a few layers on and they will look better than perhaps expected. Here's the big nasty Chosen here. Ugh, big gribbly beast. He was literally just a couple of layers of flesh and then just a bit of an ink over the top. Let's get one of the servitors. They're the poster boys. These horrible, horrible gribblies. So we'll set up the board. I'll show you what the scenario is going to be for today and we'll get started. And here we are all set up for today's demonstration. So this is going to be borrowing some of the rules from the free prologue that you're able to download and play that was available during the Kickstarter. And this wider scenario is actually phase 3, where Marius, who's our leader, has to try and survive 7 turns against the hordes of Mormo while trying to disrupt a place of power. Now, I'm going to be as express as I can with this so we can get into the action. We're going to jump in kind of halfway through and I'm going to play a couple of turns. At the moment, you can see that Marius and his fellow allies are facing some servitors, which are corrupted versions of their own brethren. And you can see that place of power, that stonework, has a dice with the number 3 on in a moment, which is its magic points. We'll talk about how that functions in a second. But yeah, the main aim for us here is to just survive a few turns while we show off the mechanics. But in the wider game, there might be other objectives, such as defeating enemies, securing points, or quite simply being able to disrupt these places of power so they cannot afflict other people in the future. So as always, a turn has 3 rounds to it. You have the action phase where you take alternate activations against the evil hordes. You have the Mythos phase where they are able to manipulate the battlefield. And then you've got the end phase, which is your standard tidy up. So we're going to jump straight in with our first activation, which is going to be Marius. So units within this game could be categorized as either heroes or soldiers, and obviously Marius is our big heroic leader. So he will generate command points equal to his command stat of 2, which are those green tokens there. Now we're going to talk through a basic turn in a second, but before we can do anything, there's a possibility that other hordes are going to be approaching because we've disturbed their slumber. And this is usually identified by spawn tokens that are in a pool of resources off table. Now within this scenario, we start with 3 spawn tokens. What we do is we remove one of them and we simply roll 2d6 and we add the current threat level of the game. And the threat is something that increases in effect quite a lot. In the normal scenario, you start at 1, but we're a turn in, so we're going to start at 2. So 2d6 plus 2 is going to be 8, 9, 10. So 10 on our table will tell us that it will spawn 3 ghouls of Mormo. These are kind of like undead soldiers that are going to come in, or undead civilians even. And what we do to determine where they come from is we roll on this really interesting chart which has like a diagonal and proximity value on it. Now in the Kickstarter they've created a terrain piece that you can actually put on your board, which I think was a really clever way of doing this. But essentially we point the 6 towards our deployment edge and we roll proximity so we see where they are coming from. We get a 6, they're coming in behind us. And then what we'll do is we'll roll 2d6 and add a 4 to it to work out the proximity, how far away they're going to spawn in. So we get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in total. Now it's a 2x2 board. It's going to be really simple to see where they're coming on from that board edge. So let's put them down. And you can see the looming threat that's appearing behind the archers and Marius, but we'll worry about them later. We've got bigger fish to fry at the moment. So Marius has got his 2 command tokens. He's going to use the first one to pay for a command ability, and that is going to be to rally. And what he can do is he can remove a fear token from friendly allied units within his leadership range of 5 inches. Now, I don't think you can go below 1, so we're just going to take 1 away from these legionnaires so that they are down to 2 fear. That doesn't cost us anything, that's not an action, that's just something that is a passive that leaders and heroes are able to do. Now, most of the time we have 2 actions available. We can push that further, but it'll increase the cost of fear as we do it. So the first thing we're going to do is going to take a move action. Now, most models and units can move 4 inches. Heroes have the ability to move and join units. That's exactly what Marius is going to do. He is going to move 4 inches to here, and he is going to join this Legionnaire unit to give them a little bit of backup. Now, heroes can't gain fear, but their presence of joining friendly units actually removes fear. So he's going to give them a little slap on the shoulder, give them some reassuring words, and he's going to let them know everything's going to be okay. So that's his first action complete. His second action is going to be what we call a charge, and that is a move followed by an attack. And likewise, this is again going to be a 4-inch move followed by an attack. So a charge goes in kind of 3 phases. The first thing we do is we move our units to engage the enemy. So even though they are fallen friends, we are going to try and get ourselves stuck in as far as we can. The next thing we do is we basically pile in. We have like a little 2-inch free move to try and get as many units together. So we're just going to bring this guy around. Marius is going to come up onto here. And you can see that we are now fully engaged in combat. So what you do with this game is really simple. You have a roll to hit, and then you've basically got a roll for damage or damage reduction for saves. So Marius has got a set of attacks. He has got 2. I'm going to use blue dice for him. And then he's got 3 Legionnaire buddies who each have 1 attack each. Now, attacks are simultaneous. So these servitors that we are fighting are going to strike us at the same time, but we're just going to roll to hit with our allies to begin with, and then we'll deal with them afterwards. So each unit has a combat rating, that's their rolling to hit. For everyone it is a 4+. So we are going to roll and see what we get with those 4+. We have not done amazingly well there. We have got 2 successes compared to 3 misses, but we'll take it, we'll accept that for now. Now, when you roll to hit, if you get more hits rounded up than the amount of models in an enemy unit, you actually stagger them. So I'm going to put this token here to remind us later, but staggered is a condition that the enemy must shake at the start of their own activations before they can do anything else. So you basically rob them of an AP or an action. So we're going to put our 2 successes here, and we're going to roll for saves for the enemy in a moment. But obviously they get to attack as well. And the servitors of Mormo have a combat rating of 5 and 1 attack each. So they are going to swing their 3 dice looking for 5s. They secure none. That's very fortunate for us. So all of these count as misses, which means that we can kind of freely ensure now that we don't lose any soldiers. So what this does, we don't need to roll to wound or anything. These 2 hits that we have secured basically become save rolls for the servitors. So they have a save of 5+, and they have a wound each. So they save neither. That means we kill 2 of them. Easy peasy. They've each got a wound. They're removed. I'm going to put them to one side because they may well come later. And what they'll do is they will simply just back away after losing the combat 2 inches just because of the force of our charge that has gone in. Now, we could now use a fear to generate a 3rd action and move again, but I'm not going to recharge this unit. I know it's going to have to come into me in a moment, so I think that will probably do for Marius's and now the Legionnaire's first activation. So while Marius and his friends are piling in, these archers have got a very unpleasant surprise that's appeared behind them, which are the ghouls of Mormos. So because they came in this turn, they activate first. There is a priority tier list of who activates. So if no one has came in, it would be models that are nearest Marius, and then it'll dictate their behavior. There's a really simple flowchart for how Mendacious or Mendaxius, the evil entity that's controlling these forces, would behave. But the AI simply for this one is just going to be they're going to move and attack because they're within 4 inches. They're just going to barrel themselves forward and charge into our poor archer support. So these guys are going to just move in here. Now, there is a difference in mechanic between how enemy forces react to being charged compared to how allied forces react. We actually have a choice. So when we are engaged in melee, we can either counterattack, defend, or hold, and our choices are much more about fear management. So if we hold, we simply get attacked, we can't do anything about it. If we choose to defend, we can increase our save, and that costs us 1. Or we can spend 2 and we can counterattack. Now, this is what the enemy did a second ago, but obviously they don't have fear to spend. So what these archers are going to do, because as you might expect, they're not great in combat, they are going to generate a point of fear as they defend against this attack. So the ghouls are going to go in. There's no counterattack for them to worry about here, so we're just looking at their dice. They have an attack stat of 1 each, and they are using a combat rating of a 6+. So basically hitting on 6s, they have hit with none of them. If they had, we would have been able to defend that on an improved save rating, which would be a 6 down to a 5, but there is nothing for us to worry about there. Now, a really interesting mechanic with the Mythos unit is with their second action, if they're in combat and they've got a second action available, they just press the attack. They just attack again. So these ghouls are just going to get a secondary attack straight away. Now, if they were to kill one of my units, they actually get a bit distracted and they get staggered because they're eating a corpse, but they're just going to roll the same dice. Now, the interesting part is, if I choose to defend or counterattack against the first attack, I have to hold during the second one. So I have to just take this now on 3 dice needing a 6+. Let's see how they do. We do this time get a single 6+. Now our buff to our defenses doesn't carry over. So what we need to do here is we need to roll a 6+ on our defense. And the ghouls have got an interesting rule, which is called Bilious Flood. So when this unit attacks in melee, each unsaved hit inflicts 2 wounds on the target instead of 1. So basically, these archers only have 1 HP. So if I don't save this on a 6+, this will actually kill 2 of my archers. So let's see what we get. We get a 2. Unfortunately, we have been felled. So 2 of our archers will be kills there, and they will be removed from the game board. Now, unlike the Cthulhu forces, I don't get to regen mine, which is a little bit sad. So this archer is simply going to be pushed 2 away, and these ghouls, now that they have ed someone, they're going to gain staggered as they feast on the corpse. That at least will help the archer out in their next activations, but for now, they've just watched 2 of their friends get ripped to pieces. So as you can see, I'm marking off units that have activated with tick tokens. That's because once everyone has activated, we'll move on to the next phase. So our last unit to go is going to be the Archer, seeing as the Legionnaire's activation was taken by Marius going. So once again, there is 2 tokens within the spawn pool. So we're going to have to remove 1 and see if something comes in. So we roll 2d6 and we add the current threat level, which remains at 2. So we get, oh, that's hefty, isn't it? That is, what, 11, 12, 13? Which is going to be our next highest set of monsters, which are the Teufelschuns, which are just big demon dogs. Now, it's worth saying, if we happen to roll something that is already on the table, we just go to the next highest level. If we can't do that, we just add a spawn token to the spawn pool. So let's see where these evil doggos are coming in. They are coming in along the 2, which is going to be kind of diagonally this way, seeing as the 6 is pointing this way. And we're going to roll 2d6 and add 4 to it to see how far. So it's going to be 8 inches away. So let's bring those on. And you can see terrifying, intangible demon dogs have appeared near the archer. Now, I don't think this archer is long for the world, I'm sad to say. So she's going to go with her 2 actions. She's going to move 4 inches to this position here. I'm going to try and take out this servitor to try and free up this side of the battlefield for the rest of our team and Marius to be able to kind of disrupt this place of power. So she's going to move and she is going to shoot at this servitor. Now, range combat works very similarly to melee combat in the rolls to hit and to save. Obviously, there's no chance of counterattacks to happen here. But I do have a range of abilities that I can use. So I'm going to use a loose action, that's shooting, because we can obviously throw spears as well. And I am going to pick a target within my range of 16 inches, shockingly this guy. And I'm going to use an aimed shot. This is part of the archer's trait. I can gain a fear, which will allow me to re-roll any rolls of a 1 on this shooting attack. And I have a combat rating of a 5+. So I need a 5 or above to be able to hit this guy. We get a 5, hey, I'll take that. So she has successfully fired an arrow and hit an enemy here. Now there are many modifiers to range combat, which I'll flash up on screen that can kind of affect your ability to hit. So for example, if your target is more than 10 inches away, you actually treat your range rating as 1 point worse. That 5+ would be a 6+. There's also things to do with cover and targeting, but we had a straight line shot that was really easy. Now, staggered again applies, so I've actually managed to secure enough hits that will actually equal the amount of units or half the units in this enemy section. So I'm going to stagger this unit a second time, which will stall it, which, as you might imagine, basically means that it cannot take any actions when it activates. But we have to see if it saves this shot that's came through. So I'm sorry, my fellow old friend, but you've been arrowed, sir. So they need to save in the exact same they would before. They've got a 5+ save. See if they are successful. They are not. They get a 1. So that will kill this servitor and secure us at least 1 victory against the enemy forces. Now, this does help us in a range of ways. First things first, we are successful in killing an enemy unit, so we actually reduce our fear score. So even though this young lady has got a lot of enemy issues behind her, she's incredibly confident now that she's been able to fell one of the enemy forces. The other thing is we've taken activation away from Mendaxius, so they would not be able to activate that unit now that it is dead. And it means that we are a lot more capable of disrupting this place of power. So the only activations we have to worry about now are the Truthful Shuns down here, and we don't have to worry about any enemies spawning for the remainder of this turn. So just these evil Truthful Shuns left to go. So these guys actually have an interesting ability. They have Feral. So if they charge, they can actually move 6 inches. Now you can see that we're very, very lucky that we're just outside of that, and you can't go within 1 inch of an enemy unit unless you are charging them, or obviously unless they're an ally and you've got to keep coherency. So these guys are just going to move 4 inches to begin with to here, which takes away one of their actions. That stops her getting absolutely battered with 2, but then, of course, they are going to charge in to our lone archer. So again, we've got a choice here about whether we counterattack or defend or just simply hold. Now, knowing that they can't do another attack after this, she is going to gain a fear to once again defend and try and see if she can keep herself alive with a 5+ save rather than a 6+ save. So these evil doggos have 1 attack each, but they have a combat rating of 4+. They are much more dangerous with these attacks. Let's see how they do. They get a 1 and a 5. So they've got 1 successful hit. And then we've got to see if we can save it. So yeah, our normal save would be a 6+. It's a 5+ for this one. We have been able to stagger, or we have been staggered, because again, they've made enough hits that is equal to half our unit rounding up. And we're going to see what they are able to do now. Now, the interesting aspect of these hounds is that they have the drain trait. So I've kind of done this deliberately just to show you how this works. So their rule says that when you make saves against this unit's attacks, you use the target's grit rating instead of save. Rules which give a bonus to save, such as defending, are disregarded. So I kind of did this to show how this works, but it mathematically works out even anyway, because my grit rating is a 5+. So I basically just spent a fear for no reason, but it's to show you that certain enemies will attack other stats. So can we defend on a 5+? We only get a 3. That will unfortunately kill this archer and remove that unit from the game, which means that it's down to Marius and the boys now to see if they can secure victory as we go into the Mythos phase. So once all the activations are complete, we go on to the Mythos phase, and this is where special events such as panic and threat start to come into play. So the way that panic works is each of your units suffer a panic for each Mythos unit that is within 4 inches of it. Now, fortunately, we are safe for this turn. I don't think the same is going to be applied next turn. But just to talk you through how that would function, we basically count the amount of panic that is caused and we roll that many dice. And we roll against our grit rating. Now, if we've got a hero on our unit, we can use their grit, 'cause it's usually better, so Marius's would be a 4+. And each dice that we fail to succeed and beat our grit on, we gain a fear. Now, fear is really important, as we've seen, for spending and managing our nerves and counterattacks. But actually, if we get to this panic phase and our fear hits a 6, we actually just start to lose soldiers to desertion. Basically, we lose wounds. They start to run away. They flee from our units, which is exactly why heroes don't have a fear rating, because obviously they're going to stand and fight to the very end. Now, we don't have to worry about that much for this turn. So what we do is we increase the threat level by 1. So we go up to level 3 now, and we roll a d6 and we check the threat level. Now, the threat level will start to impact this place of power, but it will also impact the other battlefield. It can generate additional movement actions for characters, heals if we're really lucky, or much, much worse things. So let's roll a d6 and see what happens. So a threat level of 3 means that we have rolled a 1 and then we get the warped reality stat. Now, warped reality has a +1 in brackets next to him. That actually affects the magic points that are on the place of power. So this is going to go up to 4. Basically, really bad things happen when this gets up to 6. And each Mythos unit moves up to 2 inches towards your nearest unit, stopping if it would move within 1 inch. So let's do that now. And you can see the increasingly unpleasant situation that is unfolding here as these units creep ever closer. So that'll conclude the Mythos phase. We now go to the end phase. So we would check for if we've achieved victory. We haven't. It's usually a 7-turn game for this scenario. And then we would otherwise just add a token to the spawn pool. So we go back up to 2 tokens within the spawn pool. That means more nasty gribblies could come out. We remove all the activated tokens and we get ready for a fresh turn. So we're on to the second turn here, and for our purposes, this is probably going to be the last one for this demonstration where we talk about some more advanced things that might happen during the game. So you can see Marius has replenished his command points. He can't remove any fear from his allies to start with because they're on 1, but we have got 2 tokens in the spawn pool, so we have to see if something is going to come in and join the battle. So with 2d6 and we add the threat of 3, means we're on threat 8. Now that would, again, bring in 3 servitors and more fallen allies are going to join the battle. So let's see where they're going to come from. They're going to come from the 1 that is going to be to this direction over here. And we'll roll 2d6 and add 4 to it to see how far away. That will be 12 inches away. So let's bring those guys on. And you can see more horrible hordes have came to join us. So Marius is going to go with his unit. The first thing he is going to do is he's going to take a move action, and we're going to move ourselves towards this place of power. And what we're going to do is we're going to form up into something called close order. Now, as you'd expect with Roman legionnaires, when they are standing side by side next to each other, they gain a range of bonuses which will help them to defend or attack better because they're used to fighting in formation. Obviously, when you're fighting horrible hordes of, Cthulhu level threat, it's not necessarily easy to maintain your composure. So he's just going to rally them there. Now, with his second action, what we're going to do is we are going to try and disrupt this place of power. So as long as we're within 2 inches of it, every model within that unit is able to try and, graffiti it with Roman runes or just knock the stones over or whatever. We roll a dice for each model in the unit, and they need to do a result that is better than their magic rating. So for Marius, it's a 6+. For the Legionnaires, it's a 5+. And for each one we succeed, we are able to remove a value from the magic points on this place of power. If we get it to 0, we just remove it altogether. It's inert. It won't do us any other nasty things because it can spark out magic and it can do all manner of horrible things. So let's do some graffiti. We will re-roll Marius's because it's a little bit of a cocked die. So we have not been successful for 3 of them, but 1 Legionnaire is our Banksy of our group, and he is able to deface this place of power and knock a value off its magic rating, which is pretty good, not too bad at all. So that would usually be our 2 actions complete, but what we're going to do is we're going to push ourselves a little bit further here. So Other actions available to us could be to bolster, which would remove fear. It could be to move or attack like we've done before. You can't do the same action 3 times in a row because obviously if you attack 3 times, you're going to absolutely wipe out a unit. But what we're going to do is we're going to gain a fear to use the loose ability, which is to throw our spears, our peeler, into the enemy. And this has an 8-inch range, so you can see everybody's going to throw their spears here. Marius is not equipped with them, but his legionnaires are. So we've got 3 dice for these guys. Now when they are in close order, they can use the Rain of Spears ability. So each hit is counted twice when determining whether the target unit is staggered. So for example, all I need is 1 hit here, and I'm going to do a staggered anyway, but if it was a bigger unit, it means if I roll perhaps 1 hit versus a unit of 3, I'd actually still stagger them, which is a really, really nice ability. So our range stat for our legionnaires is a 5+. Let's hope they do hit. And we have succeeded in scoring 2 here. So, as we've seen before, these Trufelschunds will now need to make their defensive save, which is a 5+. Now, unfortunately, these guys have 2 wounds each, so there's no way of wiping the unit here, but let's hope that we can do a little bit of damage. Hey, we have got 2 that have failed their save, so this one here will just perish as it goes back to the void. And that 3rd action has allowed us to at least mitigate the threat ever so slightly. Now, the nice thing about us being close order like this is that it actually improves our save rolls, allowing us to reroll 1s, but it also means if we do choose to counterattack in combat, we strike first. So it means we can actually kill the enemy before they get their shots against us. But the close order will always be broken after that, once we resolve the kind of removing away from combat, because that will naturally spread the soldiers back out again. But it's not a bad activation for our heroes. So onto the alternating activations, and these servitors have got a very simple activation. They are not able to get into melee, so they're simply going to make 2 move actions to move to this position here, where they are going to threaten our at least somewhat stalwart shield wall. So the last little thing we want to show off here is going to be interruptions, or as they're called within the game, unit reactions. So we're going to go with the Trufelschund. It is staggered, so it's going to have to remove this condition before it can do anything. And then it's going to move. It unfortunately is not quite within 6 inches of Marius's shield wall, so it's going to have to move its 4 inches to just get to about here. Now, what I'm able to do is, I know it's got a 2nd action coming normally, but this is the end of its activation, so it's not able to charge. But what I'm going to use is this unit reaction. So it says once per turn, after a Mythos unit finishes resolving an action, you can make a unit reaction with one of your soldier units, as long as it's within leadership range of Marius and within 8 inches of the unit that it's activating. Doing this causes the soldier unit to gain 2 fear, so it's going to ramp us up to fear level 4, but we can immediately pick to choose either a move, a charge, or a loose action, and then you carry on resolving the rest of the enemy's unit. Now, it's worth saying all of these reactions can be taken while you are below 5 or 6 fear. Once you get to that point, that starts severely limiting your actions. You can never deliberately take yourself up to 6. So we're going to quite simply choose to charge this unit. I would prefer to have it off the board, given how terrifying it is. So we're going to charge ourselves in. Bring this guy round here. Now we know if there's future turns that Marius is then going to be near other enemy units, but for now, just to show you how this interruptions works and how it can be used, we're going to throw some dice. So we've got 3 attacks for our legionnaires, we get 2 for Marius, they're all hitting on a combat rating of a 4+. And as you might have expected once per recording for Tom, that is everything that has missed, but this gives us an ample opportunity to show off one of Marius's other command of abilities called By Jupiter. After you've made a dice roll for one of your units that is in leadership range of this hero, you can spend a command token to reroll any of them. So Marius has unfortunately missed, but he's going to get his legionnaires to reroll their attack. And you can see that's done much better. We've got 2 successes there with 6s. Now, If I had chosen to, I could actually have done an all-out attack here with the Legionnaires, where each of their hits actually inflicts 2 successes, but we're going to take the 2 we've got for now. We've once again reapplied Staggered to this beastie, and now it needs to roll 2 saves on a 5+ to see if it survives this return onslaught. And you can see it has not succeeded there with 2 3s, which will eliminate it from the battle back to the void from whence it came. And as we saw previously with the Archer, we have successfully defeated a Mythos unit, so we will actually recoup 1 of these fear as we are taking the fight to the enemy forces. And that will end the Truthful Hand's activation, obviously, with it no longer being on the board, and we've just got the ghouls left to go. So these ghouls have a very simple activation. They are staggered, thanks to the work of previous activations. They're just going to have to take a move. They're going to move just to this wall here. They're going to have to maintain unit coherency of 1 inch with each other. As you can see, this looming threat starts to face down what's left of our beleaguered Legionnaires. So once again, we enter the Mythos phase, and this time we absolutely do have enemy units within 4 inches of us, so panic is going to be something that we need to consider. So if we have enemy units within 4 inches of us, they cause 1 panic. If any of the units would have double our number, they actually cause 2 panic, but luckily these are 2 units of 3. So this will generate us 2 saves that we need to make, and this is going to be taken against our grit rating. Now we're going to use Marius's because he's a hero, so he's got a grit of a 4+, so we need to beat that on 2 dice. We get a 4 and a 5, so we will not gain any fear. Now even if we did, luckily we wouldn't have hit 6 to panic and start running away, but it shows you how this can ramp up as the enemy forces start to close in. All we need to do now is we'd increase the threat to 1, that would take us to level 4. You'd actually increase it by 2 if the place of power was on 6, that would be terrible if that was going. And then we need to roll to see what is going to happen on the threat table. So on a threat level of 4, we roll, and we get a 1. This is going to be crackling energy, so we get +2, so we'd add 2 to the place of power. And this says that whichever of your units is closest to the place of power suffers a number of hits equal to the number of magic points it has. So we are up to 5 here. So our unit is going to take 5 hits. So let's see how our Legionnaires do with their 4-up saves. We have only saved 2. That means our 3 Legionnaires are going to be taken away. Their wounds have to go first. Now, thankfully, that also means their fear goes with them, the cowards. But this leaves Marius all on his own to fight these enemy hordes until daybreak. Now, incidentally, if this value would have ever got to number 6, if we hadn't shown our graffiti to facing, the result is actually fixed regardless of what you roll on the threat table, which is rampaging creature. So you put the threat level back down to 1, you immediately reset the spawn tokens to 3, and then you get this gribbly beastie, the Chosen, who comes out, who is horrible. He's put within 2 inches of the place of power, not within an inch of Marius, but you have to then contend with that. But thankfully for our demonstration, this is where we are going to leave it, and we will have to imagine whether or not Marius is going to be able to make a hasty escape, and that is completely valid in some scenarios, just running off the board to live to fight another day. But Marius' story will be continued in the main game, where his prologue will affect the adventure of your hero as they start their journey. And at that point, we'll leave Marius in his very precarious position. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'll put links to all the resources that are available for the game also in the description. And what you can do with this playthrough is play it in your own time with your own miniatures. And that, like I said, will feed into the main adventure of the main game when that's released, where Marius' fate will decide how your adventure begins. Now, there's some extrapolations of the game that I've not been able to talk about in this that happens actually in between battles that I'm really excited about. One of them is scenario cards, where you'll be presented with 2 options available before you start a scenario to select from. And regardless of which one you choose, the one that you did not will have an adverse effect on the battlefield, which means that your leveling up, your hiring, and then your scenario choosing will have profound effects on the games that you play across your campaign. Now, as I said at the start, the game can also be played at different scale levels. We did the skirmish, but there's also a wargame and rank and flank that goes higher, and they're divided into acts. There's no obligation for you to rank up in your acts. You can continue to play a full campaign at skirmish level like we did, or you could start off with rank and flank and go from there. But the acts are designed to show you the progression not only of your troop, but also the story as you uncover some of the mysteries and dangers in this fraught world of threats. So hopefully you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you again in the next one. Take care, folks. Well, a massive thank you for watching that video, guys. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to find some more, they should be over here. And if you want to support the channel and the content that we create here, there's links to our Patreon and merchandise in the description below. Take care.